Are you starting to...
No, I couldn't see whether it was because I haven't got my glasses on.
Great start.
Good morning, my tiger friends. So today, I have invited a very good friend of mine, Jojo Ebi Sujima, out in amazing, like, she's in Japan, people. Talk about them being multinational. I invited her on my page today to have a little bit of a chat, simply because there's obviously lots of changes going on in the world at the moment. And I think Jo, she's actually a contributor to our Raise a Tiger program, where she does an amazing little workshop on setting your home up to make your child become more independent. But she also really helps busy mums with scheduling their days and getting set up for homeworking, because she's been homeschooling her child and working from home for a very long time. So I will allow her to tell you a little bit more about it. Jo, do you want to come and say hi?
Hello.
Hello. Can you tell my tiger friends about what you do?
Well, I come from a Montessori background, so yeah, not quite with it.
Didn't you write a best-selling book?
Yes.
No, let's not play this down. You didn't just come from a Montessori background. You wrote the best-selling book, Montessori-inspired
activities for preschoolers.
Preschoolers. Find it on Amazon.
Yes, it's all about doing Montessori at home and how you can use Montessori equipment's very expensive, but how you can do the same kind of activities using stuff that you've got lying around the house, basically. And so that's kind of my background. I also homeschool, and my business is, like you said, helping mums to set up and run a business around their family rather than trying to fit a family around their business. If that makes sense.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, so I help mums with productivity and the techie kind of business side of things, but also stuff at home and how to get the kids doing what they need to be doing, and
teach us that.
All those
teach us that. I'm sure there's going to be loads of mums watching this just going, yeah, how do I do that? Because as I'm sure you're aware, Jo, we've all been flung in to the madness here. The school's closed last Friday, so the school's been closed down for 4 days now. I was a little bit ahead of the curve because I pulled my kids out early and I already worked from home. But there's a huge amount of mums that are suddenly they've got their children there and they're not used to having their children there, or they've had to set up to work from home and they've got their children there, and they potentially have their partners there as well. It's all a bit of a mess. What's the situation in Japan?
Well, school closed down the end of February. They were one of the first to close all the schools down. The school year actually starts in April here, so it was like the end of the school, and it's now spring break, and now they're talking about letting the kids go back, but I'm not sure whether they're going to, because there's more outbreaks in Tokyo, so it's all kind of up in the air. But a similar sort of situation, that the government did a complete U-turn from Thursday morning, it was like business as usual. Thursday night, right, we're closing all the schools as of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, it was a complete, everyone was like, ah! So we had the whole panic buying and all that, and then it calmed down. So right now it's kind of chilled. I think there's still anxiety in the air because we're not really sure what's going on, but it did get better once everyone had sort of, realised what was coming and what was expected and what they're going to have to do.
I think that's what it is. You just need the clear communication. I don't think we had a lot of, there was, I think the day that I pulled my kids out a bit early. And the day I pulled my children out, I think it was a Tuesday morning, and they said the government gave the guidelines that they were shutting the gyms, they were shutting the cinemas, nobody should go to crowded places. But the schools were still open. And I was like...
It was the opposite here.
I'm not doing that. I'm not going to send my child with asthma into like a school of 600 people when the government guidelines are that you don't go to crowded places. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So I just took the decision. But we've all obviously been thrown into this. Everyone's dealing with a crisis, aren't they, that no one's ever dealt with before. So we're all kind of up against it a little bit, including the politicians. I mean, goodness, our PM, he looks knackered, and I hear him because I'm knackered all the time. I feel like the PM finally feels like a single mum of two. The PM finally feels like a single mum of two.
Yes.
working from home. No, I genuinely think that, you know, he's got some real like, I don't envy them what they're dealing with, and the NHS is just like swamped. So we really did a really big applause last night at 8
Yeah, I
o'clock.
saw.
Yeah, it was amazing. So let's talk about how you can help all the mums that are watching. So I've got a few questions that I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody has any other questions, I'm going to pop Jo's details down the bottom so that you can go and find her. She is a whiz at this kind of stuff. This is what she does for a living, working from home, running her living around her day and around her kids. So tell me a little bit about, Jo, how people can they schedule their day? Because obviously with younger children, most of my watchers are sort of between 2 and 7, 2 and 8, something like that. Sorry, my watchers aren't. They're parents of people who are 2 and 7 and 2 and 8. Let's talk about setting up their day, because I found like the first week it just went to rats, which is fine, by the way, mums. I think it's really important not to put any guilt on yourself. But as we sort of go into it, we're going to have to kind of put some kind of schedule in if you haven't already, just to stop you going nuts. So can you talk to us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. So I think normally if you were going to homeschool or you're planning to have your kids at home all the time, this isn't a rash decision. You know, you'd have thought about it, you'd have set up some kind of system in place and all that. Whereas this is a different situation completely. Everyone's been thrown in and expected to deal with it. So, you know, bear that in mind as you're paddling through this. Don't take on any guilt or that whole mama guilt thing. Let that go, because, you know, everybody's in the same boat. And I think initially, just doing a schedule day by day, you know, have a breakfast meeting with everybody in the family, even the little ones, get them involved too, and talk about what your day will look like. You know, if you've got something important to do, communicate that to the kids. Say, okay, at 10 o'clock, I've got to have this call for work and I need you to play quietly. Or, you know, I'm going to stick Frozen on, or whatever it is that they're into, that you know will keep
Let
them
it
quiet.
go, let it go. Sorry, couldn't
The
do
song. I've never actually seen it. I know, well, my son was too
Oh
old
no,
to.
you've got an older boy, haven't
Yeah,
you?
we missed all that, thankfully. So yeah, have a like a meeting in the morning and decide the schedule. And if there's 2 parents at home, and I know you're in a different situation, but if there are 2 parents at home, team tag. So one parent is looking after the kids for a couple of hours while the other parent can work, and vice versa. And just to have a break. You know, you can't expect dad to go and do all the work in the bedroom sort of thing, and mum to handle the kids and keep them quiet all day. That's just not going to work. Everyone needs a break.
And it isn't fair.
Yeah.
For anybody's sanity.
Yeah.
Do you know?
So team tag, and, you know, take it in turns and things, give each other a break. If you've got older kids, then, you know, put them in charge for a while as well. And are you cleaning the hair?
Yeah, well, I was like, that's better. Honestly, like, when I was on the screen, I was like, I look like I'm sitting behind a cloud, because, you know, obviously I'm like, I looked very blurry, and I thought I'll just give my little camera a wipe, and suddenly, ding! It's filthy. I have cleaned my laptop. I've honestly been really, really good about cleaning everything because of all the fear and everything. But sorry, Jo, to interrupt. I'm going to come back to you. I'll just show everyone my fit. Right, just so everyone knows what I'm dealing with. So I normally go to bed when my kids go to bed, and I normally wake up about 4:30. But I had this meeting this morning with Jo, and it was 6 o'clock, and I just woke up. And this is what's going on behind me. I just want you to see this. This is what I'm dealing with.
This is real life.
This is working from home. My children have been painting their tech decks and didn't put them away. And at half past 8, I was so exhausted that it didn't happen. Anyway, so back to you, Jo. Can we talk about how it might be for a single parent? Because I do have lots of single parents. Obviously, I'm a single parent as well. What tips might you have for anybody who can't tag team? Because I've seen this advice come out before where people go, yeah, you work in shifts, and I'm like, yeah, great.
Yeah, and not just single parents, because like my situation's different because my son's older, but when he was little, my husband was working away like 3 weeks at a time overseas, and I was in Japan with no support by myself. So although I don't get the whole thing because I didn't have all the responsibility myself. I do understand the exhaustion and, you know, not being able to pass them on to somebody else, which is what you want to do sometimes. So
I
I
mean,
think
right now, just them going to school. I was
yeah,
saying this
gives you a
today,
break.
even them going to school. Okay, I'm working and I work from home, so luckily I didn't have that stress of setting that up. But just them going to school means I can go to the shop by myself.
Yeah.
Do you know, you can go for a walk by yourself for half an hour at lunchtime. You can just have that reset. And this is not a situation, this is not reality for any single parent at the
Yeah.
moment. So go on, I'm interrupting again.
So
Do that.
knowing your kids' rhythms, you know, which part of the day are they really bouncing off the wall, really full of energy, and which times of the day are they calmer and quieter, and schedule that in for quiet time, and, you know, give them an audio book or put them, you know, something that can be doing on screen. And I know there's all this thing about too much screen time, but we are in strange circumstances, and I don't think it's going to hurt them for the next few weeks to have a bit of extra screen time, especially if it's saving the parent's sanity, which it
Can
might
I
well
just
be.
underline that as well? I said that in one of my lives the other day. Do you know what? This is not a normal homeschooling situation,
No.
and this is a world emergency, and no one's prepared for it. And you know, you've got to get some stuff done. And particularly if you're in a business like myself, or actually my work has actually got busier. So at the time that it's got busier, my children have also come home, and suddenly like, I saw this thing from a teacher the other day, and she said, you know, like, don't kill yourself. Yes, I mean, my children are being sent work. We haven't done a lot of it.
It's not important.
Like, for even if just for the next, they're going to be off for 2 weeks anyway. So even if you choose to, you know, spin that work, because we have Easter holidays coming up, you could spin that work over these 2 weeks and the next 2 weeks, and you'd still get it done. Do you know? And even if they don't get it done, the schools will go over it multiple times. When and if.
When?
when let's hang on to when they open it again. I think right now it's a survival at the
Yeah.
moment.
You don't have to homeschool your kids. This isn't the situation where you're not supposed to be the teacher. You're not expected to be the teacher. And they are learning stuff no matter what they're doing, whether they're even, you know, just gawping at the goldfish. There's still things going on in their head. If they're playing Minecraft, they're learning. If they're playing with the Lego, they're learning. If they're drawing, they're learning. Everything they're doing, they are learning something. So they don't need to be doing worksheets. And we've got to remember that the teachers were in the same boat. They had no idea this was coming and they had to scramble. And the easiest thing for a teacher to do is, oh, here's some printables. So, you know, it's not like they were like, oh, we'll plan out this homeschooling curriculum and we'll send them this and do this. They didn't have time to do that. And a lot of teachers have got their own families at home as well, or they are in schools taking care of the frontline people's kids and trying to send stuff home to parents that are stuck at home with their kids. So I think our teachers all need a pay rise. It's an incredible job that they're doing. And, you know, just let your kids have fun. This is a great opportunity for your kids to learn how they best learn, because normally they're in a school and they're doing what the teacher tells them to do. Whereas
Yes.
we all learn in different ways. You know, some people learn better by reading, some people will learn by moving, some people learn by listening. I'd imagine you're an auditory learner, being a music.
I'm auditory and kinesthetic.
Yeah.
Actually, being an NLP practitioner.
Yeah.
I'm auditory and kinesthetic, so movement and sound. Definitely, I have my elder one is definitely movement. I mean, if we can do maths and throw a ball around, and I've said that from day one, like getting my eldest to sit down at a chair and a table is physically impossible. I mean, the boy has so much. I mean, I know boys are energetic, right? But my eldest is like always been the box of bouncy, like the bounciest ball in the box of bouncy balls, and he used to suffer with hyperactivity on top of that, which has calmed down a little bit. But he's just got so much life energy, and it's a gift. But to parents, oh my goodness, but to go in the garden and kick a ball and count and do maths while we're kicking a ball, we can do that. But also, it's like you say, I mean, I think everyone's just winging it, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's okay to wing it because everybody's
Yeah,
winging
and
it.
that is a
Everybody's
life
winging it.
skill. It's a life
Yeah,
skill, so don't beat yourself up because you're learning stuff, and
yeah.
let the
I've
kids
got mine
learn.
doing laundry. I
Yeah,
literally, I've stepped up the chores because I'm like, do you know what? If you're here all day, there's more stuff to do. There's more cleaning up. There's more cooking. Do you know, I've got a really, really basic schedule. So we have free play till 10. We have breakfast. And then what we do is we go and have a run around in the garden because I'm lucky enough to we have a shared garden where we've got some little things where only one family's allowed in at a time, which is really cool. But we have space enough to run around to go to every day. And we do that. And then after that, it's lunch, and then it's reading, and then they can do art or maths or whatever. And it's very much driven by them. And it's really interesting because when you leave children to be bored, you have to get them through the boredom. It's okay for them to be bored. I think everyone feels like they have to entertain their
yeah,
children all the time. There's a moment where they go nuts, especially if they've been on screens. But then there's a little bit where they get bored. And then what happens is they just find something to do.
yeah. And
And
that's where the
the magic.
creativity comes, and it's that,
That's where the magic is.
yeah, and that's where they learn where their passions are, and that's what we want them to follow.
Which is very much the Montessori way, right?
Yeah, follow the child. So once you know what they're really into, if they discover that their love of dinosaurs, or I don't know, Egyptology or something, once you know what it is, then you can find the right activities for them, and you can give them the activities to do, and they will learn deeper, they will study for longer, and they will concentrate for longer because it's something they're interested in. You know what it's like when you find a new thing that you're really into and you just get like sucked in, and then suddenly it's 3 hours later. It's the same with kids.
Yeah, I mean, so. I'm going to use my own example as an example. So, 3.5 years ago, I found myself in a situation where my ex-husband was not having the children, suddenly had the children full time, and I had no money, and I had loads of time, but I felt completely and utterly isolated and locked down. And it was out of that, out of that boredom and out of that the huge amount of imagination that came, that made me write all the songs, and I got all the inspiration. I read voraciously, and that's what happens when you suddenly all the entertainment is stripped away and you have that time. And I've been saying this for years, Joe, that I know that people see gifts and talents in their children already. I know, for example, when my eldest wakes up in the morning, all he wants to do is dance. Well, I'm saying to my kids at the moment, you're in this amazing situation where if that's what you want to do every morning for an hour, you can do that. You
Yeah,
can't do that at school. I mean, this is exciting for the children, but I think it's going to take a week or two of I think it's really important to think that the children are not going to do that straight away.
yeah.
At the moment, they think it's a holiday, but they will. They won't live like this forever. Rory actually asked to do some work yesterday. And it's because after a few days of not doing much, they do actually, most people want to engage in something. That's
Mhm.
human nature.
So usually when people pull their kids out of school and start homeschooling, there's a period that they call deschooling, and they just leave the kids to do whatever they want. And it might be that they sit and play Fortnite for 12 hours a day, but it only lasts for, like you said, a few short periods of time. Like sometimes, the rule of thumb is for every year that they've been in education, they take a month to deschool. So the longer they've been in the education system, the longer it takes them to deschool. I think with my son, it was different because we've always done project-based learning, and I've never really been pushing him into the school situation. But he was in elementary school, Japanese elementary school. We pulled him out at the end. So his deschooling didn't take as long, but mainly probably because of the home situation that he'd been raised in. But so it does take a while for the kids to get out of that institutionalized way of thinking.
Yeah, and it's very rigid structure, isn't it?
Yeah,
School, it's and if certainly the work that I do, I am in trying to encourage inner-driven humans. I mean, it's a massive opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity.
yeah.
I love the deschooling thing. I never heard of that, Joe. That's fascinating that you actually take them. I suppose, yes. It's like if you gave up your job and just started to do something different, it would take you a little while just to completely readjust, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And if you think that schooling is getting people ready to go into the workforce, well, that's why it was created in the first place. The Victorians
Mm-hmm.
wanted kids ready to go to the workhouse. and it's basically the same thing, but now we're going to the office. And it's getting you ready. It's all preparation for that. So I think especially for people who want to go into the creative side of, workforce, the arts or whatever, and there is so much creativity these days, I think the whole deschooling and having this opportunity to just like follow your dreams and, learn how to be a videographer or how to do graphics online, or there's so many free courses available right now. All these places that have opened up, and I'll share the link. I've got a link with page with lots of different courses and things.
Yes, I shared that. Is that the one that you sent me the other day? I shared that on my page. Yeah, share it again, because there's so much free resources out there.
It's an amazing opportunity for the kids to just, try stuff that normally they don't usually have the time or energy to do, because, there's all this extracurricular stuff, and it just gives them a bit more opportunity to try something different and see what else is out there.
So, Jo, let me ask you, because obviously we are being sent homework. Well, I'm being sent homework, and we've covered off the guilt. But I mean, I've got, for example, one child that is going, I've got to do my homework, and he will have, he likes the school environment. The school environment suits him, and I know that I could have put him in any school in the land, and he would thrive. So he wants to do it. But then I've got another child, like I said, that basically he just wants to dance. I mean, he's a dancer. I mean, from the age of 2, it's like living with Billy Elliot. We can't go to the bins without him doing a jump or some spins or something. So I can see what he wants to do. It's so blatantly obvious to me. How do I factor in getting him to try to do some homework? Do I need to worry about it? What do you think?
If you really want him to do it, then try the worst first. So talk to him about doing the worst job first. Get the homework done, set a timer, just even if it's only like 15 minutes, okay, do 15 minutes of homework, and then you can dance till the rest of the day, So getting over that, I think as adults we know it as eating the frog. His name Brian Tracy.
No, I'd never heard of this eating the frog, but I read your sheet the other day and I loved it, and I used it with my kids yesterday, and I asked them, I loved it. So please tell everyone they're eating the frog.
Maybe because I read.
We used a large dog poo frog and a small chocolate frog. That was my analogy.
So if you've got 2 frogs, eat the biggest first, and you've got 2 frogs, you've got to eat both. Eat the biggest first because you've got the worst out of the way. But I kind of like worst first rhymes, Maybe you should write a song about that.
My kids like your worst first. Yeah, my kids just like the fact that one was made of dog poo because they thought that was quite funny. And I was like, if you have to eat a large frog that tastes of dog poo and a small frog that tastes of chocolate, what are you going to eat first? And they went, the large one with dog poo. Because you would.
Yeah.
Until they found out it was about work, and then they decided they wanted to eat the chocolate one first. It's clever, right? Okay, so let's talk about keeping them busy, Jo. And what kind of things you've already mentioned a little bit about being led by the child, but obviously parents are trying to factor in trying to do some work and stuff as well. So what kind of ideas have you got for keeping them busy?
Well, there are, like I mentioned before, loads of online resources, and a lot of them have got gamification, so the kids kind of get hooked. My son does Duolingo. He started with Spanish but then switched to French, and he's done over 500 consecutive days because you get like points or gems or I don't know, something for checking in each day and doing your lesson. So that whole gamification thing, which isn't very Montessori at all, but it does, the kids are raised on it these days. I don't know what Maria Montessori would say about it, but that's a good way.
There's an element, isn't there? Because interestingly, so in my program, I have this beautiful little section on imagination, and I do a song called "The Garden of My Mind" to explain to children about their thoughts and stuff. But with that, do you know, like you paired in my program with my pick up your pants to give people some extra value. I interviewed one of the leading thought leaders on screen addiction, Dr. Colin Carroll in the States. and she was talking about how that creates sometimes like almost like an addictive thing,
Yeah.
and that's almost not really healthy.
Yeah.
That anything that's got that need to earn, need to get to the, that's
You're
what
getting that dopamine hit.
Dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of giving you that reward. So I suppose it depends. I think parents have to be very careful. I think exercising some mindfulness and checking out what it is that it is and how it works. And I think this is the kind of thing that's going to take up extra time, because at the moment we just want to go, there you go, do that. So how?
I think setting a timer and setting boundaries and sticking to them are a good way to go. So my son, he uses the iPad for his schoolwork in the morning, but then I realised that after lunch he was picking it up again and he'd be on it for hours, and I'm like, this is not good. So we just set this rule: okay, no more iPad until 4 o'clock, which is when his mate usually comes round, and then you can use it until dinner time. So they've got like a little window. And even though his mate is off full time at the moment because all the schools are shut down, they've been playing, but they don't come down for the iPad until 4 o'clock. So even though it's there and he hasn't been doing his schoolwork, he still does his French, but he hasn't been doing the rest of his schoolwork. It's interesting that they haven't even thought to ask for it before 4 o'clock, because that's the rule and that's it. So I think if you can set some boundaries and stick to them, that's probably the best way to go. Because there is some good stuff out there on the internet, and it is really useful if you need to get some work done as well. And like crafts and all that sort of thing is great, but it's also usually really messy. And if you're trying to get work done, it's going to cause more stress if you've got to clean up all the crap as well.
Or not.
Or not.
Okay, as the case may be. I just looked at it last night and went, tomorrow. But I think the limits is really important, because I was having this conversation yesterday, because I have kind of, with it going, my workload has increased quite drastically, and as it is, I start work at 4:30, 5 in the morning most mornings. But they are literally drawn to the screens, and so the last couple of days we have just gone, do you know what, there's no screens until, I've said 3 o'clock because mine are younger, and then there's no TV even, so they can watch some TV. My kids are only allowed half an hour of game time anyway, because it makes my eldest, I think it also depends on the makeup of the child. So again, my younger child will be quite calm, he can play a game and it's fine, whereas the other one, it will make him like, and then it almost you get this madness afterwards that's so intense. With 2 of them in an apartment is like, my top tip, by the way, is earplugs. I found that earplugs is really useful. That bit just before bedtime, that you put the earplugs in and you can still hear them, but
the witching hour, I like to call it.
The witching, it takes mine 2 run up and down. We've got a long hallway, and they just run up and down it and run through my kitchen, literally screaming and shouting, and it just like, by that point I'm like, I've been working since Papa's 4 this morning. Earplugs.
Yeah. My son said to me the other day, he used mine, he put them in for something, and he said, I thought these were sound cancelling. I'm like, no. He's going, but when I talk to you and you've got them in, you ignore me. And I was like, yep. He thought I couldn't hear him.
I also don't think it's a bad thing for our children to know that sometimes they might have to come over, what it might feel like to not listen. Do you know? Because we have to tell that all the time. Okay, so you talked about keeping them busy and following the child. Like, when you say keep them busy, you've got the free apps, we've got the things. Do we need to be killing ourselves over maths and arts and music and stuff, or should we just
let them do what they want? Give them, like you said, let them get bored.
A loose structure. Structure. Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's talk about meeting their friends, because I know we've had 1 or 2 FaceTimes here where they literally commented my laptop for like forever. But again, they are, it's not too bad for the first week or so, because most of the children are used to some kind of holiday, and the younger children, it's not so much of a big thing, but certainly when they reach school age and they're used to that structure, what can we do for them to have some social interaction, and what kind of limits should we put around that?
Well, I think, yeah, things like FaceTime or Zoom that you can use. Zoom you can use for 40 minutes for free, which
Yeah.
puts an actual limit on it because the technology will cut down. So, you know.
I have Zoom Pro, so that
Yeah,
doesn't
so do I. But
matter.
talking about moms that have just come, you know, that are not in our
Yeah.
situation, that have been thrown into this, if they sign up for a Zoom account, they can use it for 40 minutes and then the tech will cut off. And you'll just have to say, oh, well, you're only allowed 40 minutes and there's nothing I can do about it. So it's kind of that somebody else is putting the limit on. It kind of takes it off your responsibility, which I think is better for the kids in a way. You know, they're not going to blame you for like cutting the time off.
Yeah.
But, and again, just letting them, kids just need, they don't need to be structured time while they're playing with their friends. You know, they can just set up the iPad or whatever, or the phone, and play with the Barbie dolls or the Lego, or just talk or whatever they want to do. Sometimes they'll just goof around, but that's what they're doing on the playground anyway. But they need that. You know, they're at school for like 6 hours a day with their friends 5 days a week, and then suddenly no social interaction. It's going to be really hard for kids. So I think
I think it's really hard
play,
for adults. I think the
yeah,
adults are going to find it hard. I think everybody, I mean, even I would get social interaction, even if it was the school gates, just for 5 or 10 minutes. Do you know, even just that is quite difficult, isn't it? But I wanted to pick up on something that you said, Jo, because I love it, is that the children are in the flow. And I think all of us, I mean, I'm reading this amazing book at the moment, which is gorgeous, called Magical Parent, Magical Child, or Magical Child, Magical Parent. Anyway, it's very lovely. It's right up my street. And it talks about, like, the first page talks about, you know, how people are some people kind of, you know, that there's this moment, isn't there, where everything is coming together and you're flowing, and the creativity, either the creativity is flowing through you, or you are just on your game, or you're in the zone, and sportsmen's people talk about being in the zone or whatever. And it's that moment where there's almost, you're not even in control of it and everything goes right. That's what kids call play.
Yeah.
That's what our kids are doing naturally all the time. And I think that they need to be allowed to find that again, don't they?
Yeah.
Without.
And just going back to we didn't touch on it, going back to schoolwork, when kids are in school, they're in school for say 6 hours, they are not studying for 6 hours. They're not studying curriculum for 6 hours. There's a lot of faffing around when you're in school.
Because there's like 20, 30 kids in a class, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just that is going to take up 20 minutes of everything, isn't it?
Yeah. So when they do schoolwork, when they actually sit down to do curriculum work, it shouldn't take any more than yours are all younger kids, 2 hours tops a day is all they should need to do the curriculum for the day.
Yeah. And I would imagine so also limiting the amount of time. So my children are 8 and 10, so they're a little bit older now. But you're probably looking at only sort of for younger children, maybe activities of maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because their attention span. Mine, I'm kind of scheduling sort of half an hour, 45 minutes. But actually, you're right. If they're in a school lesson, that's probably all they're doing. By the time they've got them in, got the shoes, sat them down, everyone got a pencil, get all the things, they're probably only doing half an hour, 45 minutes, and then they're having break and snack and going out for a play, aren't they?
Yeah. So I don't hear school lessons are 45 minutes. I don't know about the UK. It's been a long time since I was in school. And the other thing to remember is school is completely different from when we were there. You know, the whole school system has changed.
Yeah, they use different words. They're like, "Mummy, what's this?" I'm like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. So if they're struggling with maths or something like that, Khan Academy or Prodigy, there's one of my clients, her kid is absolutely hooked on Prodigy. He's been doing maths every day. He loves it. This is the kid that was crying because he couldn't do his maths homework. So,
Okay.
and they're linked on the page that I sent. So
Brilliant.
sometimes the method doesn't suit the child. The way that they are learning, the method they are learning at school doesn't sometimes click, and sometimes it takes them to see it in a different way, you present it in a different way, and then they're like, oh right, get it now. Especially with something like maths, because there's so many different ways to do it, that sometimes just showing them in a different format is enough for them to click and understand what the actual problem solving part is. So
And
that's why
also
I
the
really
fact
like
that they get,
drawing.
I think also the fact that they get to do it on tech, because I'm quite limited
Yeah.
on tech here normally. I'd have to say I've been very lax on it this week, just while I'm getting my stuff together, as most people are. But actually, the fact that it's really important for them to use a pen, and they can do that with drawing and stuff. But the fact that they can do it on an iPad, or the fact that they can do it on a phone, is going to add an extra air of excitement and, you know, a different element to it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's probably going to make them more interested in doing it. At least I'm hoping so.
And tech's the way forward, you know. They're going to need to know how to use tech. So
Yes, they are. So are we talking about really just finding, I suppose what we have is we have this amazing ability to just be really flexible with our day, because
yeah,
there's no rules, is there? There's no rules.
rules are
Some
gone.
people need rules, but actually being able to create your own rules with your own rhythm is what you're talking
Yes.
about, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so just little, you mentioned pockets of time, so talk about that, because you when we spoke before, you were talking about small pockets of time. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Just a half an hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah. And also for the moms that are working, or parents that are working, if you keep a running list, either digital, or I use Google Keep, but you could use pen and paper, of little jobs. Often they pop into your head like, oh, I've got to email such and such, or I've got to message Rachel, or whatever. Just keep them written down, because for starters, that's taking the noise out of your head. But also, when your kids are suddenly engrossed with something, or you've put the kettle on and you're waiting for it to boil, you've got 2 minutes, pull up that list. Okay, I've got to message Rachel. And you can do it, because it's a little tiny job, but it's those little tiny ones that they all mount up, and then you feel completely overwhelmed. So if you can keep on top of the little jobs by using those tiny pockets of time, you'll feel less stressed and overwhelmed. And yeah, I think you'll find your flow easier than trying to sit down and, right, I've got to work for an hour, because when you've got kids underfoot, sitting down and working for an hour doesn't tend to happen. So using
No.
the little pockets of time wisely, instead of picking it up and scrolling Facebook, which only makes you depressed anyway. So just me.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
And don't watch the news. Like my tip for the day, don't watch news. If you're going to watch the news once a day, check out what's going on, and then do it in the morning, so you're not like at night.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Okay. Well, thank you, Joe. That's been very helpful and informative. Joe, if you can ping me, well, in fact, I will put ping. I will put your ping down the bottom.
Really?
And ping. You know, so I'll put JoJo's details down the bottom. You can find her. She has a Facebook page. You have a website as well, JoJo, don't you?
Yeah, Jojo Ebby, JoJoEBI. In fact, I'm Jojo Ebby everywhere. So if you ever need to find me on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, that's where you'll find me.
Amazing. So, Joe, I have a thing. So before you go, you know I need a massive rah, right?
Rah.
You love it. You love it. Bless you. Always a pleasure to talk to you, my lovely. Have an amazing day.
Okay.
And, speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.